prescribe medicine, but we prescribe community. The idea that the interaction is what's important rather than what's in a pill bottle. And throughout we have 4 programs over the years that have really developed an understanding of how we can support our own community and beyond. And part of that is breaking down this stigma around mental illness. And stories are extremely important, but education is as well. And we were able to bring in a TDE member who is also a lead researcher on genetics and mental health. His name is Ed Skolnick. He may win a Nobel Prize soon, I hope he does. And we had him speak at a SPOC dinner. And in it, he said that scientifically speaking, mental illness does not differ from physical illness, except that perhaps it's just genetically more complex. But if we think of it from a scientific perspective, there's no reason that there is stigma. And stigma is just a basis of fear. And what he said a lot, irrationality. So we were able to bring on educational programs, support programs, and as well as offer resources to our community. We created a resource guide that really answers the question which a lot of people ask, which is, where do I go first? And what are the steps I take? Who can I call to help me get through the process? Because as Karen said, the fact that Kevin was not able to navigate the mental health system, even though he was the CEO of a hospital, is insane. It's unbelievable that you are not able to navigate it. And as a community, we have the power to really change it if we do a lot of great advocacy work. We also are developing institutional relationships with different organizations like NAMI and Wellesley Human Resource Services, Newton Wellesley Hospital, and Riverside. And we've been able to create these institutional relationships that allow the synagogue to rely on them for support, because our clergy only receive so much pastoral training, and pastoral training only goes so far. Also, it's not a rabbi's job to be a therapist. That's what our clergy always tell us. And that's why we're always asking ourselves to not be clinical. And the main piece that we've really been working on is support. How can we support our youth staff who are often receiving the 11:59 p.m. calls from our teens? Not the parents. They call our youth staff. They're on the front lines. And so we've developed a relationship to be able to meet every month with a mental health professional and go through case studies and discuss how we can be better supporting our teens. We have trained our clergy. We've also brought in different support groups from NAMI, as well as a group for parents of teens who are struggling with mental illness. And we most recently had it was a program that was like a support group in that the results were the same, called Navigating Life Transitions. And it's something that we're going to continue over the course of the next year. And it's the idea that through conversations and reflection, we are able to connect over our common experiences, whether they be life's curveballs or life cycle events. Because we all go through these transitions, and mental wellness is always a topic of concern. And we ask these questions like, what are the tools that we can develop to better sustain ourselves through these changes? And how can we adjust our mindset to suffer less and grow more? And how can we tap into our resources here in the Jewish community, both in the temple and in Boston, to be supportive of each other? The gatherings are really open for all in our community, and we've stressed that. And we're hoping that over this next year, we're able to widen the conversation throughout our community to populations that we have not been able to touch before. I want to end by saying that our mental health initiative has accomplished a lot, but there's so much to do to support our community. And really, there's so much to do to support the Boston community, or the greater Boston community. TDE is not alone, both in need for support and willingness to make a difference. Stigma rises at every turn, and it takes a lot of power to overcome it. But I think a lot of power as an organizer, and understanding that even though TBE is a 1,200 family congregation, that's not enough to really make a difference to change systems and to fight stigma. And it relies on groups of temples and groups of communities and maybe even institutions like CJP to come together and really focus on the issue at hand, mental illness, and bringing it into the conversation. So as Karen ended with, I really hope that you join us in figuring out how this topic can always be in conversation and how you make sure there are always opportunities to support your community around mental illness. So thank you.
We have a few minutes. I'm wondering, would you be question?
Sure.
Anybody? Oh, good. I have a question. Karen, thank you both for sharing. Thank you both. It's a very powerful story, and probably not alone as a parent, both recognizing and sympathizing in everything that you said. So my question is pretty, I think, straightforward. If at sort of when it was feeling most sort of deepest or most acute, what are the kinds of things? I heard both your messages about synagogues are a community, and yes. What are the kinds of things those that either Rabbi Safra or Rabbi Sisson, right? What are the kinds of things that were said to you that you felt were most valuable, and what are the kinds of expressions that were, I guess, least valuable? And you don't have to say, you can if you want, but you don't have to say who said the least valuable. But really just to sort of think through as pastoral caregivers, so what are the kinds of responses we can have to people who are suffering the way that you were suffering 3 years ago?
So I'll take it first. So the most, I distinctly remember the day Rabbi Sisson called me home. And his question to us was, how can I help you? In all honesty, Temple was not the first place. We were in a major crisis. We were in serious crisis mode. And Temple was not the first place that we turned to for help. However, Rabbi Sisson's phone call was probably one of the first that we got in the community. And someone reaching out and saying, how can I help you? Without saying, I have the answers, because at that time we didn't know that there were answers, in fact, was extremely powerful. When we went to Shul for the first time after Noam left, the welcome that we got from the clergy, obviously the story was shared with our permission, with the other clergy and the staff members. It was the hug. It was the idea that we had a place where there was no judgment attached, there was no spotlight put on us. It was up to us whether or not we wanted to be in the spotlight. And it was just a very, very warm embrace. I think the other thing that as a parent was most important, and this is something that everybody can do, there is power in sharing your story with like-minded people who have gone through something similar. And one of the things that did happen at TBE was these support groups. We, through all the programs that we went through, were able to meet parents who had gone through similar yet different stories. And the idea that there is a forum where you can share your story, more or less what other people have experienced. And there's so much common ground and so much shared pain was very, very powerful. And there are a number of those groups at TBE, and I think that that's an impactful way to provide support.
So I was wondering about groups and maybe Sandy comment. Are the groups at TBE open to the community at large, and if they are not, why not?
So that's a question that we've struggled with. I would say,
What was the question?
oh, sorry, the question was, are the groups at TBE open to the community? If not, like to the wider Boston community, if not, then why not? We've only had one group that was open to the wider community, and it was a group that we partnered with NAMI on. NAMI runs family-to-family groups, which is more like an educational support group. And we knew that by hosting NAMI at TBE, that we would be opening it up to the wider community. So we were facilitating it, that we were just providing space and inviting our community to join. Beyond that, our other groups have really been only for our members. And the reason has been because of the level of trust that is required in these conversations. And when people feel that they are in a community, they are able to be vulnerable and open up and share. And like Karen said, having those forums where people can share their experiences is extremely valuable. And we hope that by keeping it closer or closed for the community, that it allows a more effective experience for those who are involved. It's difficult.
Thank you both for sharing. It's very powerful. I just wanted to sort of piggyback on something you said about Wheat Bar. I was very active in helping them get started and figure it out. And they're doing an amazing job. And they also have spiritual counselors and mental health professionals. And so they combine really the best of everything. And I hope that they get more notice from the Jewish community, because there's still a lot of people who are unfortunately keeping things in the closet and inside. So what you're doing is just tremendous that you're putting it out, putting yourself out. Really
So,
speaking.
one of the things that we've learned in this process is that there are different types of programs out there. The issue of regulation is a challenge. Accessing these programs usually comes through education consultants, which is a whole world out there of mental health professionals who are very aware and often down to the therapist's name of which are the programs that are better than others. And what we have noticed is that there have been in different programs clusters of kids from certain cities, and when you trace them back, it's because of education consultants who are very aware of which are the better programs, the outcomes. It's not scientifically based, but there are definitely trends and outcomes. And so the way for that to happen is, and I would be happy to have this conversation with them about, because I think it's really important, that they get on the radar screen of these education consultants who are able to then refer clients to theirs onward.
And there's another question of Sandy. So if a community were interested in, as I say, a synagogue or JFNCS or another organization were interested in creating programs similar to what you have, maybe adapting it for the particular observance level or something of that particular synagogue, is TBE providing or interested in providing training to a different synagogue community?
I would say yes, and we've done so. We've had different other mental health initiatives who reached out to us, and we reached out to other mental health initiatives as well throughout the country, who have asked us, what are your best practices? I wouldn't say it's a training, but we've definitely met face-to-face with other synagogue leaders about their own pathways. Every community is different, and like you said, it requires some tailoring to the community, which we can't do, but we can still offer what we know is best for our community in hopes that they can take that and with the understanding of theirs and make it more effective for their community.
Is that something you would be interested in pursuing? Maybe you would have like a half day or a day long program, if you had some kind of support, financial support, to make it feasible, where you could have synagogue leaders come in and learn from you how to create programs in their own communities?
I think it's possible. I just don't know if a day-long or half-day-long program is the best way to do it. I just don't know, but it's interesting. That's an interesting thought.
Can I just build on that? It seems to me there are a number of us who are trying to do similar parallel things. And so a lot of us end up feeling like parents who are reinventing the wheel of how do we find, like your resource book would be a fabulous thing to know about. And I just wonder how you all would feel about having an opportunity sometime for those of us who've been doing this for a while to come together and brainstorm about what is things we share in common and what are things that still need doing.
And I'd just like to say that, this is something that the Root of the Synagogue Inclusion Project, this is sort of the next thing on our agenda, is to convene the various mental health initiatives in the Boston community and beyond to talk about how to do exactly this and focus on your exemplary work, Temple Isaiah's exemplary work, and the other initiatives. It's very much on our radar screen.
I'm gonna suggest the following. Maybe hear all the questions. I think Samuel and Eric and Gita, Mark and Laura, and then you guys can pick what you think is the best. No, don't pick the best. So maybe we'll just hear all 5 questions, and then we'll just roll and try and address sort of each of them as best possible. Samuel, you start. We just had a few. Samuel, you start.
So the fact that you got a text from your son's friend, I think is really incredible. And you mentioned also training your youth workers in how to do that kind of support. And I'm just curious if you could say more about what kinds of conversations or what sort of the environment was such that that young person felt like they had the power and it was in their right to make that choice. And any other advice for those of us working with kind of people that help?
Go ahead, Eric.
My question was your question.
Eric, was your question their question? Because then this will really.
It's your question, actually. I'm interested to learn more about Noam's relationship or lack of relationship with clergy. It sounds like the synagogue was important to him, but what was his relationship like with the clergy? And to Dan's point, speak a little bit more about what worked well and those relationships or didn't work well.
So, I mean, I actually realized
One more. I think Gita. Oh, 2 more. I'm sorry.
I'm curious on an institutional level, like the synagogue programs that you're creating. Something I've experienced in my personal life with a mom with chronic mental illness, it's happening with me, is that at the beginning, the synagogue was actually really amazing and did what they know how to do best, which is pray and bring meals and outgoing of support. But there's fatigue and it's really hard to support someone for years and years on end. And people have to worry about their own lives and their own kids. And what I've found is that after a few years and multiple hospitalizations and the amount of support that she needs, the synagogue actually can't, over that long period of time, maintain that level of support. So I'm curious what happens after the initial. And I think that's how mental illness is really different than physical illness, because people want to see outcomes and they want to know that their help did something. And how do you encourage a community to stay invested when you might not see outcomes or feel rewarded for it?
My question is a little, actually, it's kind of like Gita's. At a large congregation, I've been a member of a large congregation that has turned out that when you're in crisis, making lots of phone calls to your synagogue aren't necessarily your first phone calls. And one of the challenges we found is, maybe an educator knows about it, or one clergy person knows something that's going on, or a lay leader, and other people don't. And out of maybe confidentiality or maybe not having the right system, it turns out we don't get that call from the rabbi because, and wasn't sure they should share something with the rabbi, or didn't know how to do it, and how do you manage that in large congregation?
All right, I'll see you later. So I'm forever grateful to Zach for texting me because I don't know how close we were. I don't know how much it was a cry for help as much as it was a real farewell. I don't know. And I don't think, maybe some point in time I'll figure out. So the reason we ended up at TBE was because of the youth program. The majority of Norm's friends were at TBE, a very robust youth program with amazing youth leaders and a very, in my mind, and I've been in the Jewish community for many years, a very cutting-edge way of looking at Jewish education, a little bit outside of the box. I love junior group, I really do. That's one of the programs at TBE is junior group. And so every Thursday they meet just the guys and they think they're doing nothing Jewish, but it's all Jewish. You know, starting with the mezuzah at the door, you know, it's all Jewish and they don't realize it. So it was a combination of his friend group along with an amazing youth educator and a very supportive system that allowed for him to feel like TBE was his second home. And he's not alone in that. So I would say that that's really where it started. And then it was a deep commitment of his friends to him. They knew of his struggles. I'd taken them with me to visit him at McLean. We had spoken about the things that can and should not be said. I had spoken to them about the fact that Norm cannot drink or do drugs, and that they play a role in helping him be sober because that could be detrimental to his health. So they were a part of my story. They were my support group. And so I'm grateful for that text. I'm not surprised I got it. There was something going on in my relationship with them and their relationship with him and in their relationship to their temple. It was a sense of community. So I think that's question number one. I remember something about
Clergy relationships.
to Norm. So less of clergy and more so the youth workers. That was however, I will tell you that Norm spent Pesach Bamidbar in the desert, in the high desert of Utah. And I had gotten permission, because you're not allowed to send packages, I'd gotten permission to send him gefilte fish. And so after he shared this very weird food with his non-Jewish friends, his letter to me in response was, I really, really appreciate TBE now. And Jody Suffren's music, Kendra Suffren's music, and I really get the value of my community, having spent Pesach from Bab. So there was something, even though it wasn't very visible, there was and there remains a very deep connection to TBE.
It was the last one was Geeta's question to think about, just profound about long-term. Yeah. Yeah.
Before answering your question, I want to piggyback on the questions that you answered in that the way that we've set up our youth group is the idea that our teams are empowered. And if we tell the teams that they have power, they take it and they use it. They run our retreats. You know, yeah, we do the logistical stuff like booking buses and booking the place, but they're doing the program. And by telling them that they are leaders, it gives them the agency to be leaders in other ways beyond what is like the formal standard of being a leader. And having that understanding of their agency is really important when they're at this decision moment and they can decide whether to call their friend's mom or text their friend's mom or not. And we have programming like Juman Group, which also is called Sheva Dakim in other circles, and part of Moving Traditions curriculum has been a great way that we've been able to work with our teens and expose them to the idea of vulnerability and caring for each other. With the clergy and educator piece, it's true that our educators are the closest to our teens because they see them. We see our teens like 3 times a week. They're there every day. They're there most of the week. Even the teens who are there once a week, we're very close to them. And we have clergy that sit on our educator team so that we can share information. At the beginning of those meetings, we have a pastoral topic of conversation so that we can better orchestrate and coordinate together. I don't know the specifics on how our rabbis and like our senior educators are able to communicate, but I do know that on like the lower level in terms of rabbis and youth advisors, it's very close, and we discuss and we're able to make sure that we're on the same page. With your question about the long-term piece, I think that synagogues can play a role long-term, but you're right that it's not the super intensive role. And in fact, we have received feedback in our most recent program that families say synagogues are great in the first few weeks. Clergy are calling us once a week. We have our caring community who goes like 2 or 3 times a month. But then after that, things kind of peter out, which on the one hand is really great because you're right, the synagogues can't maintain that level of support. The question is, how can the synagogue connect that person to other levers of support so that they're turning to the synagogue, but they're also turning to different institutions that can support them in the long term, which at that level of support, synagogues can't do, but organizations like NAMI or Riverside, they can really do that level of support. And it's important to think about the synagogue as a piece of the system, but not the entire system. That would be my response. Difficult question, though, I would say.
Thank you both so much. We can eat. There should be food in it. I think there should be food in the pantry. Just want to say we'll reconvene at, we've got a choice to seat on the schedule 1:15. We have 2 amazing speakers. Somebody, McLean's was mentioned, and the director of spirituality and mental health at McLean's will be here to talk about his experience, as well as somebody who runs a program specifically, if you're focused on Hillel, working in colleges, is specifically she runs a program specifically for college students and mental illness. And then that's 1 hour, and then at 2:15, we have Hebrew Senior Life folks talking about mental illness and depression and elder care, and then Mark will be simultaneously doing something on Shuvah. Enjoy lunch.
And I would say that the positive for ourselves that it's just really, I personally don't have a good
Yeah.
Well, fortunately,
I mean, it's already changed. So it's, yeah, it is. I wonder, could we? Yeah, maybe afterwards, maybe, so the event is intended to be what, 2 hours, an hour and a half? Yeah. Oh, is there a reception after? Is there a reception around 2:30? So 2:30 to 3, or 2:30 to 4 is the programming, and then 4 to 5:30 is the reception? Yeah. We're doing the presentation, then we're doing small group conversations. Okay. If you wanted to have clergy, maybe and have a small group conversation,